What is up, people? What time is it? It's 3 o'clock, and it's the second Wednesday of May, and happy May, I guess. April's over and all of that. But welcome to Cheerful Conversations, episode 9 of on the 9th of May. Okay, so today I wanted to do a little ode to mothers, but fathers too, because we don't want to leave them behind. Because Mother's Day is this Sunday, so all of you dads out there, or all of you who have parents, you might want to make sure that you mark that on your calendar on Sunday, because we want you to, pamper us and shower us with all this amazing stuff. But so we're going to have a little bit more of a parenting theme this time around for today, and I have an amazing co-host who is going to banter with me about the joys of parenthood. But before we get started, I just wanted to share, my mom right now is in the Philippines. She actually sent me a note this morning saying Happy Mother's Day. And it is really interesting to be a mom and then, also have your mom, and just knowing, from both sides, like being the child and then being the parent. And, I don't know what people think about all of these like random holidays where we're celebrating somebody, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, all of these things. But what I love about holidays is the fact that people get to just celebrate and take that day, even your birthday, right? That's the time of the year where you get to be the center of attention if you choose to be. And we just allow ourselves to honor so many of the different hats that we wear in our lives. And so I just wanted to share that, whatever perspective you have about some of these celebratory days, everybody deserves the opportunity to be celebrated, even if it's not, we can celebrate every day, but sometimes with the busyness of life, we just tend to forget. So happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. I will be thinking of you and sharing love, and I hope that your families give you all the pampering and all the love and the hugs and kisses and spa days or whatever that turns out to be for you. I don't even know what I'm doing for Mother's Day. It's like I want to go to Nordstrom and go shopping. I don't know. That's on my list for the weekend. But anyways, let's get started with the show. What's really, really funny before I start the intro is that I had cleaned some stuff on my computer and like lost the file and had no idea what it was saved under. So I'm scrambling a couple minutes before this show trying to get my intro back up into my system. And so a little bit of stress and we were having some technical issues. So hopefully that won't happen, but welcome to Cheerful Conversations. Yay, everyone! Welcome to Cheerful Conversations. I am here with my awesome, awesome co-host, Angie Martin. Hey, Angie! Good! I'm so excited to have you on the show today, and we're going to talk about all things parenting, but probably with a spin more on the mom stuff because, I don't know, there's probably more moms that would watch this anyways. And then, yeah, I think it's just because that's the perspective that we're coming from. So maybe in June I'll have somebody do Father's Day. Hopefully I have a guy co-host on that who's a father. I'll have to double check that. But thank you so much for being here with me today, and we're going to talk about the theme for today is cheerful parenting. Of course, we've got to keep with the cheerful theme. There are a lot of things that I feel that sometimes parents can look at being parents as a negative thing, because it's a lot of work. But we want to celebrate some of the really awesome things that come with being parents, and maybe talk about some of the struggles that we have as parents and how we can kind of bust through them. And so I'm going to let Angie kind of tell all of you guys what she's up to in life and who she is, what she does really quickly. We'll talk about how we met, and then we'll just dive into some of this parenting stuff. So Angie, tell everybody all about you. I know, right? Hmm. Yes. Yeah, and it's great because cheerfulness and joy, they're all along the same theme, and I think that what we're doing and who we're focusing on working with is very very similar. I think a lot of my clients struggle with guilt and comparisonitis. I struggle with it. It's to this day. I don't think that that's ever going to go away, but it's how you manage it. And so we'll definitely talk about comparisonitis, and all of that guilt stuff later. And so what's funny about, we were talking about before the show about how we met. And what's funny is that we know that there's the general themes of we both graduated from the same coaching program, and that's kind of how we got to know each other. But we're also not 100% sure exactly how the meeting or the interaction went down. And what's funny is we'll do a shout out to our friend Valerie, who is probably the one thing that we know that brought us together. She also is a coach, an iPEC coach who I did my mod 3 with. So hi, Valerie. But I know that we met virtually through some Facebook group, whether it be iPEC or Valerie's group or the Boss Moms group, we're all three of us are a part of. And then I know that you and I had a call, like we just did a virtual call, and I had the chance to connect and really get to know each other. And we've just kind of been supporting each other, supporting each other's businesses and just supporting each other as people, since then. And I don't even know exactly when we met, right? We're trying to figure out, like, it might have been around the time that my book was coming out or was already out, which means it's somewhere between like a year and a half, right? But but it's just great too to know that I don't think we met through the iPEC group, even though that was probably the biggest connection that we have, and so we have similar philosophies in terms of what we've learned in terms of coaching, and um we've still we're drawn to each other somehow, and now we're in each other's lives, so yay, and having this show right now. Yeah, so that's kind of how we met. And unless, is there anything else that you thought about that? It's just, yeah, absolutely. And you have two kids, right? Yeah, and I have two kids, and it's crazy. And I know that my kids are a little bit older, and they're in this place where it's so comfortable now, and like I don't want them to grow up and become teenagers. But like this morning, we had a power outage, and we were eating breakfast in the dark, and they're like, "I'm bored. It's dark. Like, what can we do? Like, I can't even play on my iPad because there's nothing, there's no power, there's no internet." And but they're super chill, so that's what you get to look forward to. Yeah. Okay, so one of the questions, I've got two questions for you, one that I know and one that I don't know. The first one is, what is something, and try to make it not work related because that tends to be a big part of our life, but what is something that you in your life geek out on? And it might be silly or funny or weird and whatnot, but what is one thing that you geek out on? Working out. Oh, I've seen like some of your posts. I don't know if it was like on Instagram stories or whatever where you're recording yourself. That's great. How do you do that? Because it's a longer video, right? And like, how does that work? Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. 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 No, and I think that that's great because, some people, you can totally leverage social media to get make goals happen. And I definitely, when I know that I'm procrastinating on something, just putting it out there or writing it in a newsletter or doing anything, it's like, okay, I have to do it now. And I do. Yeah. Yeah, and that's like, oh, and you can watch the entire video, and I can't goof off, and I can't flub and do a second video or anything like that. I'm gonna just show you the entire thing, and I'll clip the little bit of it. So yeah, it is crazy, but I think it's you might as well use it towards your advantage if you can, and if it helps you get stuff done, then why not? So that's awesome. And so, how often do you work out? Like, or how many times a week do you work out? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's mm, okay. Yeah. 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 And I think it's important because I think there's a lot of parents that are out there that don't work out at all. They're like, I'm too tired. I can't do it. And I only work out like 2 to 3 times a week. But my workouts are super intense. And but I know the difference between when I work out and when I don't. Like just having an outlet to like punch a punching bag or whatever, because kickboxing is what I'm doing right now. And it actually regulates my sleep. Like last night it was like 9:30. I'm like, I can't even stay up right now, and I need that because I tend to be a night owl, and I was able to just go to bed. So there's definitely perks to it. It's definitely a commitment, and it's hard to kind of break that. But how long are your workouts? Me too. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so good. So inspiring to parents out there who feel like they can't work out. I mean, it really doesn't need to be like an hour every day, or it doesn't even need to be every day, or even 5 days a week. I think there are some people who I've followed and I'm friends with who will do like 15-minute workouts every day, like a 30-day challenge, or you can do intense workouts for an hour, but less. So just as long as you're just as long as you're moving. And I think one of the big things too, when I was, because I didn't work out for like the first 6 years of being a parent, or I didn't work out from like 2007 to 2015. Like I didn't work out for 8 years at all, and it was like, how do I do that with kids and all of that? And we don't necessarily realize that sometimes even being active with our kids and like playing around or just running around or going to the park and swinging, like that's still activity. So if you're feeling guilty about like, oh, it's an all or nothing, like as long as you're being active and in finding ways to multitask that with your kids or anything, just going for a walk or a bike ride, whatever, even if it's like for 5 minutes, it's better than nothing at all. So awesome. Awesome. So geeking out on working out. I love it. Okay. So the next thing is I do this with all of my people. I've got this game called Vulnerability is Sexy, which is a game that I got from a friend of mine who runs a company here in Chicago, and there are all these like vulnerable questions. And so I have these icebreaker questions, and I'm going to pull the random question. I have no idea what this is. I just kind of laid them all out. I spilled them in my last show, all over the floor. So I'm going to read this question to you in a second, and then we're both going to answer it. Sound good? You'll go first. Okay, ready? So the question is, oh my God, I can't read it. Hold on. I'll read it and then I'll show it to you. Who was your first best friend, and what kinds of things did you do together? Oh my God, I can't wait to answer this. Who is your first best friend, and what kinds of things did you do together? That's awesome! Yeah. Okay. What's her name? What's her name? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. 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 So my best friend story, I would say that my first best friend that I can immediately think of is my friend Christine. We're still friends. I don't really use the term best friends anymore, unless I'm talking about my husband. And then I just say like everybody's my best friend because I just like to have many best friends. But Christine was my first, and then Carla was my second. And actually, the three of us at one point we created this club. It was called the Unicorn Club, and we would collect stickers, and we would have to. We had like dues, and like I don't know. It was like I was a secretary and Christine was a president, or it was like that kind of deal. And the reason that we had this is because all of our families. So my Christine's mom worked with my dad, and I would actually like with Christine we would pass notes between our parents. I'm pretty sure that they were reading what we were writing, and I don't know how bad we like how well we protected what we were saying, but we would have a notebook and we would write letters to each other, and then we would pass it through our parents and then pass it back and forth. And so that was one thing that we did. Super super fun. Carla is my other best friend. She was her parents and my parents are really really close too, and so like her parents are my godparents, and it's very very connected. But all of our families, even with Christine, like we used to have these huge family parties where it was just a collection of families Filipino families, we'd all go to one person's house and we kind of rotate people's houses. And like all the adults are like, get the kids away from us and we're going to just chat and eat and socialize. And all the kids were like doing crazy stuff, like running around, playing tag, making fun of each other. We would also go camping every summer with all these families. And so all the kids would just be running around and the parents are like cooking and doing their thing. And so it was just a great way to connect. But yeah, both of them are still really good friends of mine. Carla lives here in Chicago and Christine lives in California. And so it's just really, really great to still have all of those connections after all of these years. It's, it's like, oh, she's my life best friend. But, and then I've got best friends from high school and college and it's just, it's everywhere. But yeah, those. Hmm. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And I feel like I want to do that now, but I think because everybody's kids are so young, it's like, oh, we're just trying to survive. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because Carla came over, I had my birthday party at our house and super low key, didn't really do anything. We had like four or five families over and so when she was there, like her kids are like almost four and or four and almost 4 and 2 and stuff like that. And so they're pretty young. And she's like, I'm not going to be able to have a conversation. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to eat and I'm going to feed them and I'm going to make sure that they don't break anything. And I was like, I'm just happy that you're here. And so, I tried to help out wherever we could and we just kind of walked around the house, like watching the kids. And I know it's going to get easier, but, it is just funny how, like I definitely would love to just have like, hey, let's all go do this and like go on family trips together and all of that. So hopefully that'll come down the road. But anyways, talking about like parents with young kids, it can definitely be frustrating and tiring. But there's definite perks to having kids. And so, I don't, for any of you who are friends with me on Facebook, I sent out a poll to just kind of gather some information on what the perks are of being parents, because we sometimes hear a lot of the complaints and the negative stuff, which not to say that it's easy and it's all a cakewalk, right? But there are joys and happy things about being parents. So we're gonna go through really quickly a top 10, and this is actually going to be in no particular order. And I just want to thank all of my friends and people who posted and shared some of their perks, what they think is awesome about being a parent. So I'm going to just kind of read some of them. I wish I had my list of all the people that commented because there's so many. And so I should have prepared that a little bit, but we're going to go in order. I had more than 10, so I consolidated some, but we're going to just kind of go through and talk about them. So number 10 is eternal kisses and hugs. What makes me laugh about this one is I was talking to my husband about how like, when you're a parent, it's, sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of keep that spark alive in your relationship. And we were having dinner on Monday and I was like, I get in terms of love languages, like, because physical touch is one of them. I feel like my physical touch love language is fulfilled by my children so much. Like I love like kissing my 6-year-old and I just love kissing my kids. And so my husband, he kind of gets the shaft sometimes. So sorry, Tim. But I was like, as soon as the boys like don't want their mom kissing them anymore, then there's hope. I'll be back to you. Like, and he's like, that actually gives me hope. He's like, because I thought that this is gonna be something forever, and I was just gonna have to deal with. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I'm like, I'm sure, like, once things start to shift, then things might change. And I don't know. It's just my mind is so like enveloped in my business and all that. But that kind of made me happy because I was like, eternal kisses and hugs. I'm like, really? Is it going to be eternal? I hope so. But it's just going to be different, right? Like they're going to be like, Mom, stop hugging me. And so I'm going to cry. Yeah. Yeah. Please, mommy. Yeah. It's like, please save me. So yeah, so that was funny. So number 9 is A conglomeration of different types of events, trick-or-treating, birthday parties, and Disneyland. Heck yeah! I love Disneyland. Have you been to Disneyland already? Like, not with the kids? Oh, you gotta go. Mm-hmm. She'll do the planning. Oh, good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Totally. Totally. Oh my gosh. And I still have Halloween candy. It's like, what is it, May now? I don't know if that candy's still good, but it's still there. I throw it away, usually throw it away right before uh, the next Halloween. Okay, number 8. Knowing that I'm leaving something meaningful in the world. Totally. Like this is our kids are our legacy, right? Like if we don't have kids, then it just kind of stops with us, right? I mean, we could adopt and we could do all those things, but like still, I mean, that's still parenting, right? So, being able to influence somebody, if there's anyone that you're going to influence in your life to be able to do that with your children is amazing. Love that. Yeah. Totally. Okay, number 7 is an excuse to go to bed early, leave work early, or take days off from work. I actually love this. I didn't love this when I was still like a workaholic and like, oh my god, I actually have to do stuff at my kid's school and I have to draw, I have to go see, I've got to go do stuff. Like I've got to leave work early. But now I love it. Like I get to go because my kids are what, third and first grade. And my kids are broken up into two different schools right now, so kindergarten through second and third through fifth. I don't know if this happens with and my kids are their birthdays are actually coming up in the next couple weeks. So when my kids were in kindergarten through second grade, and I'm doing this for my first grader this year, we get to come into their school and read a book to the class, and I would have been like, oh, I got to drive all the way from Evanston, back home and like do this. Like almost felt like an inconvenience. And now it's just like something that I get to look forward to and be like, nope, I have to stop working for a little bit and go to the school and read or, see them do certain things. I think they have like a portfolio day next week so that I get to see like what they've done all year and they get to present that. And so it's like, ugh, this is the stuff that you don't want to miss out on for sure. And if I get to leave work early or whatnot, I will do it. Um, okay, that's number 7. Number 6, watching them grow to be loving, thoughtful, intelligent men and women with strong social conscience that I can be proud of. A couple people had said this, so I kind of mixed those together. And I think, there's when we were talking about number 8, which was more of like knowing that I'm leaving something meaningful in the world, but like actually watching them go from these little children to these grown adults who are responsible and who have morals and just knowing that, and just seeing the outcome of your hard work is, I took that away from that comment. So I love that. Okay. I was going to say -5. I don't know why I was going to say that. Number 5, rekindling the sense of wonder and curiosity. I love that. I think that we lose that as adults, right? We get pigeonholed into this like, oh, we're supposed to do things this way and oh, we have to focus on making money and all of these things that aren't important, but children are so intuitive and they're so imaginative. A lot of times, my oldest son Justin, he draws comic books, and so he'll tell like total stories and he'll like break up the page into like different squares, and like, man, I could not do that right now. I'd be like stick figures and stuff like that. So that's super crazy. Number 4, family boarding when flying. So there was an interesting conversation in the Facebook group or in the Facebook post about, I remember that maybe when my kids were like tiny, that I was able, that they were saying, parents with small children, like go ahead and board. And I don't see them doing that anymore. And I remember like vividly, I'm like, I have young kids, let me on first. But they wouldn't let us. And so I think that there are some airlines that still do that, and thank you to those airlines, but they happen to not be my airline. So I don't know. I think, I think it's definitely a perk when that's offered. Have you flown with your kids much? The boarding? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, and number 3, and Angie, I think you were gonna give this one because it was uh in a conversation with your husband. Okay, so you go. Hmm. Yeah, totally. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And I think that it's so important that when you become a parent, it becomes not about you anymore. Like yes, of course, like you want to be a good model for your kids, but it kind of becomes about your kids. But it also has to then also become about you really living the life that you want, because whatever you do and whatever choice you make, you're never going to be perfect, right? We're all going to screw up our kids somehow. Like I like to say that. Like, I'm paying attention to the things that I wish my parents did, and I'm trying not to do those, but in the meantime I'm probably not doing something else. But the big piece of, just knowing that the way that I show up in front of my kids is they're paying attention to all of it, right? And so if I'm not right with myself, if I'm not really sure what it is that I'm doing, and if I'm not confident, that's gonna be trickled down to them. And so, and I don't claim to know all the answers or know everything, but it's like, how do I want to show up? And it forces me to confront that. Like, I need to understand, like, what's my relationship with spirituality? What's my, what are my morals? What are the things that I believe? And, how can I, if they disagree with me, like, how can I lovingly, like, have a conversation about that, and so that they can find their own way, right? Because we can only give them the tools. So, yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, and it's not always the most comfortable thing to personally grow, but if everything was comfortable, then you're not growing, right? Yeah. Okay, number two, and I think that this plays on to some of the other stuff that we were mentioning before about the holidays, but and I know that this is from one of my improv teachers, and of course this is going to be funny, but eating ice cream anytime is the perk, and it looks like I'm being a cool dad that shares ice cream with his kid, but silently, it's because I want to eat the ice cream. So I can even picture him saying this right now. But I totally agree. I totally have a lot of popsicles and ice cream in my fridge, and not to say that I'm eating it all the time, but it's mostly there because I want it to be there, and when I'm hungry for it. So I love that one. Hmm. Yeah, you're like. I love that. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. There's been times that we've gone. I don't necessarily go see many movies in the theater anymore. But now that they're doing that like reclining thing, where they like you, I don't know. Do you have that around you? It's like they have reclining chairs, and then like you can drink beer and like you can basically have dinner. Yeah, it's crazy. But there's been some times where I was like, all right, you guys go watch like a Ninjago movie, and I'm just gonna sleep. Like it's like let's just enjoy it. So that would be how I'd make it a treat. Okay, and then number one is hours of pretending, and this kind of makes me think of play, and I'll just reference one of my good friends, Gary, who is always focused on making sure that we have play, no matter what age we are, and this is again so true about how we tend to forget about the curiosity and the wonder and the play and all that because we get so serious, right? And that's not fun. So how can we? So when we become parents, like we almost have an excuse, or we're almost required to tap back into some of those old memories that we had as a kid. So I love that. So there's our top tens. Yay! That was awesome. Awesome. We totally could. So there's definitely a lot of perks. So I'm going to really quickly shift to another question from people who are following me. And I picked this one because it does deal with, juggling family and whatnot. And I thought it was a good discussion that we could have. This is the Ask April Anything segment for those of you who are watching. And if you want a question to be featured on a future show and a newsletter or whatnot, you just want to pick my brain, at me and my co-host's brain. Go to www.thecheerfulmind.com/AAA, and there's a quick form, and it's like ask whatever question you want, and we'll discuss it. So this one, I actually got a couple different questions, and I think this is because people see how I'm juggling everything. And so one person said, how do you best juggle a job, a family, and a business to get it done and still have time for kids and myself? And then the other person was like, how do you really get it all done with kids? And so there's that piece of like, you're a parent, like, how are you doing all this other stuff? And I'm definitely an active person. Like, I'm taking improv classes, I'm running my own business, I am a mom, I travel a lot, I'm doing all of these things. And I would say for me, it definitely takes some really mindful planning, and being very, very efficient with my time and saying no to things that um, that don't matter to me, which is hard as somebody who's a people pleaser and wants to make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, if I want to go travel somewhere and I can multitask it with some of my other priorities, then that's great. Or batch. Like if I'm like, oh, I want to go visit this friend, but I also want to celebrate this and I want to travel. So let me just lump those all together. So a lot of times for me, I will do things where I know I've got my own personal agendas on things to do, and so I try to see how many I can lump into one activity so that I can hit most of them. Like my birthday party last week, or even my birthday party last year was my book launch party. Like I had a book launch party, but I also got to celebrate my birthday and my husband's birthday, and I got to bring all of my family together, and it was just all one stop shop. So that's a lot of, I mean, and that takes a lot of planning in advance to say, what is it that I want? Like understanding what do you want first? Like if you are just doing stuff and you're not really thinking about why you're doing it in the first place, you might be not using your time most efficiently. So it is all about time management for me and making sure that I know what it is that I want and then making sure that I make that happen. How about you, Angie? Mm-hmm. Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and I would also say that, for me, trying to get everything done, I know that I can't get everything done, but I think that there's A, setting boundaries, B, learning how to delegate, whether it be to somebody who, can take a certain load, like making sure, like my husband does the dishes and folds the laundry. Like that's his thing. I will never do those. Unless like he like something happens to him and it's just getting unmanageable and it's causing me more stress than it's worth. Um, but I think that there's also in the process of making this transition for me, going from working a 9 to 5 job to trying to figure out like what it is that I'm going to do to being over passionate and wanting to do everything in my job, in my business. It's like I have to pick my battles. And so I know that I'm working at a slower pace than I'm normally used to, but I prioritize happiness. And so um a lot of my journey in the last couple of years has been creating space because exactly like you were saying, like in those days where you're in the red zone and you're just like in this place where like, crap, I don't feel good and I don't want to do anything. Like you need to have buffer in your schedule for that, for those times. Like I just went through one for like the last like few weeks. I'm like, this sucks. I'm like not in a good headspace and I still have to do everything that I'm committed to. But a lot of the overachieving things I wanted to get done, they just weren't going to get done. And I'm like, I needed to be okay with saying like, this can wait. And that I think that that's what people struggle with. They feel like everything's urgent and it's not, right? And it has to be perfect. Exactly. Hmm. Exactly. Totally. 100% agree with you. I love that. Okay. Like our show is going by so fast, and one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about, and spend some time discussing is, I know that you coach around this idea of comparison, right? And I think it's really, really easy for parents to look at like, oh, look at how they're like managing their kids. Like, oh, their kids are on their iPads all the time. Or, oh, they've got everything together. Like, how come, like, I'm embarrassed for myself. I don't want to, like, show that my kids are unruly and crazy and messy. And we get into these, pockets of like feeling like we're not good enough as parents. And I think that it's very safe to say that I think all parents struggle at some, with in some aspect of parenting, right? But we tend to sometimes use other people as our benchmark of, how good of a parent we are, and that's BS in my opinion. And it's hard to not do, because it's just easy, like it gives you a frame of reference. But I don't know. So I definitely want to spend a few minutes talking about this. Like, what are some things that you see as, since this is something that you are super focused on, with other moms that you see, like, why do mothers compare themselves to others so much? And like, what are some of the things that are happening in this comparison that are like serving us even less than, than in terms of wanting to allow us to be better parents? Like, I feel like that's definitely a huge roadblock. And how do we get past that? It's a lot of questions. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Your kid's smarter than my kid. Oh gosh. Mm. Mm. Yeah. 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 Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Now I'm like, what is this? Because I'm like, I wonder. Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. 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 Mhm. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that that's great. And, and not to say that like we want everybody to start posting like all the negative things that are happening in their lives. Like we don't want to see that either, but to just know that when people are sharing things on social media that are happy, like of course they want to share it because they're excited and that's just a natural reaction. But to assume that that's everything that you see or that everything that you see on social media is the entire picture is not accurate. Like I wouldn't say that my life is perfect and that we've got everything figured out and that I never fight with my husband and that I never like it all happens. And I definitely do not yell at my kids. Like I definitely am every morning. It's like, get your shoes on, get your shoes on. It's like without fail, that's exactly what's happening. And it's not even like I'm not even upset. It's just like I have a natural tendency to just like yell because it's like that's the only time people listen to me in my house. They're very like super focused on whatever else. And so, yeah, I feel guilty about it, but I also know that like I know where that's coming from. And if I really wanted to make a change about it, I would. But I also have to pick my battles, right? Like we all are going to get angry. We're going to get heated at any given time. We're going to be moody. Like that's just part of it. And so to have that belief that whatever you see on social media is like the exact 100% picture of everything that's happening is not realistic. So, and we were talking about this before the show started, but like comparison can be debilitating, but there's also times when comparison can be okay, right? And so what are some situations where you think that comparison might actually be to your benefit to do that? Because I feel like, you know, we want to encourage people to not compare in a negative sense, but I feel like there's times where it might be okay to compare to somebody else, right? Mm, I need to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 I love that. That's awesome. Awesome. We've got like a few more minutes left, and so I want to make sure that we kind of start to wrap up our show. And this is so many amazing things that we could talk about. I feel like all of my shows, I'm like, okay, we'll shoot for 30 minutes, and we'll hard stop at 60. And I am just always like, oh no, like we gotta go. So one last thing that I wanted to share is, wrapping up every show with a cheerful news segment. And so I we all come with just a positive news story to kind of comb through the interwebs and the media to see what's positive. And the story that I'm going to share really quick is, I think it's really inspiring. I know that a lot of people probably know about the black men that were arrested at Starbucks. I think it was in Philadelphia, and I came across this, I think yesterday, where they were arrested, and I guess they were talking about how, this is like a racial profiling issue, but basically instead of suing the city for compensation, they basically agreed to settle for $1 each, and but under the assumption that the city would promise to provide $200,000 for a young entrepreneurs program, which I think is the best way to turn something negative into something that's actually going to be impactful and not perpetuate anger. So I absolutely love that, and this is such a great, it was such a great story to read. I was like, thank God, like instead of just using that anger, using it to fuel something that's super important to them. So I love it. So that's my story. What about you, Angie? Oh, okay. Mm, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that story. Ah, this is such a great way to end. Yeah, it's just, the things that we do for our kids. Oh, this is amazing. So take those positive news stories with you, staying focused, thinking about the positives, working towards the greater good. And I think that's really all we can do, and just focus on that a little bit every day. And Angie, I just wanted to thank you so much for being on the show today. I hope that it was a fun and fast experience for you. It was like goes super fast. But for those of you that are watching, thank you so much for listening to us, and all of you moms out there, happy Mother's Day on Sunday, and stay cheerful, and make sure that you're putting your joy practice into your life, because you're totally worth it. So thank you everybody for watching, and thanks for checking out Cheerful Conversations, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.